Okay, my couture crafters, let's get into this gorgeous, gorgeous rainbow card. I'm all about envelope liners right now, so that's kind of what I'm showcasing. I'm cutting this down to a 5 by 10 sheet of paper. I'm using 110-pound cardstock that you can get at Michael's, and I'm scoring it here at 5 inches so that I'm making a 5 by 5 inch card. Same thing that I did in the last video. I'm folding it over using my Teflon bone folder there. And I want to make this a circular card. I don't know, it's just been on my mind to do it. I did not secure my little cuddle bug, which is a little green machine here, down to my work surface, so it's sliding all around. I should be using new cutting mats, which I have. I don't know what's wrong with me, but anyway, you're going to watch me wiggle around quite a bit while I'm trying to cut this card. That die is a 4 3/4 circle die by Simply Scrapbooking. Very inexpensive. You get a ton of circle dies in her set, and it does the trick. I wish I had cut that just a little bit larger, but whatever. It worked out. So I'm using a stamp set by Altenew, and I think it's called Pattern Play Hexagons. Yes, Pattern Play Hexagons. And this is what I like about the Tim Holtz stamp platform is that you can actually hang off the side of the platform because it doesn't have anything to stop the paper from going off the sides on two areas. So you can literally hang off the side. So I covered the back part of that circle so that I didn't get any transfer on the back. I don't want anything on the back, just on the front. I started off inking this up with VersaFine Clear, and then I thought about what I was about to do, and I thought that might not be the best medium to use, so I grabbed Catherine Pooler's, I think it's Midnight Black ink, because it goes with the Catherine Pooler inks. I was thinking that if I used that pigment ink, I was going to dirty up the stamp. Cool thing about a stamp platform positioner is that if you don't get a great impression the first time, you can go right back in the same place, just like I did there, and stamp it a second time, and hopefully you get good results. And I did the second time over. If I wanted to get some of that space filled in around that circle, I just would have needed to stand up and kind of give it some CPR. But for this technique, I just need the circle to have the stamps on it. Then I thought about it, since I want to do envelope liners now, I grabbed a copy sheet of paper for my printer. I have really nice copy paper, which is like a 28-pound copy paper, not your regular super thin. It's kind of got a little more body to it. It's not as heavy as cardstock, but you can definitely tell the difference. It's what I use to print out my planner sheets, something that's just a little bit nicer than regular copy paper. That's what I'm using for designer paper, which lets me know that 8.5 by 11 digital papers would go great with this. If you ever wonder what should I do with these 8.5 by 11 digital papers that you buy off Etsy, it would be great to use them as liners and envelopes. Just print them off on some nicer paper like this paper here, and you're good to go. So I knew I needed to cut this down to 4 by 4, and so I wasn't worried that I didn't get a full impression on that right hand side. Not a big deal. And luckily, I have this in my stamp positioner because you saw that the paper peeled up with the stamp. I hate when that happens. But no worries. I just pushed the paper back down into that left-hand corner, and I was able to restamp again in the same place. I stared at my Catherine Pooler chart for quite some time. I need to redo this chart. I need to redo the way that I have my colors swatched out. I don't even have all my colors on this. I realized it as I was pulling colors. But I played with my rainbow, and I decided on the order in the top. I switched out a few of the colors as I was sampling it. It does not make sense for me to show you guys me stamping each one of these little hexagons, because that's exactly what I did. I stamped, you see that hexagon stamp to the right? I stamped each one of these hexagons by hand. I wasn't in a hurry. I felt like stamping, but in order to get the hexagons in the box clearly, I needed to get over it, which means you guys would have been looking at my head, and nobody really wants to look at my head. So I went ahead and did that kind of off camera. I'm sliding a sheet of paper underneath so that I won't mess up my make art station. And see, I'm just stamping one by one by one. I did the liner and the card at the same time. I think this is probably one of the prettiest rainbows that I've ever done. Shout out to Catherine Pooler, whom I love. Love her ink so, so much, you guys. I always tell people, if you are starting out building your ink collection, start here. They're just so much easier to use. The other inks that I used on my other card, they really made me work for it. So, and Catherine Pooler is coming out with new colors, what seems like all the time. She's really rounding out her collection. So you guys check her out. I swear by her stamp pads. I just do. Trust me. I stamped the sentiment in VersaFine Clear ink. That's my sentiment ink. I could have used the black from Catherine Pooler. That would have been fine too. I'm just accustomed to using the VersaFine Clear. I knew that I wanted to have this kind of askew, and I know that I wanted the side to round with the card. So I'm kind of figuring out where I want it. And I grabbed my glitter glue. It's called glitter glue, but you can use it paper to paper. It's some of the fastest drying paper glue that I've ever used, and I am a fan. Look at this little stand that I got off Etsy. It holds my glue. It's rainbow. I like rainbows, obviously. And it holds it upside down, and I think everybody should have one of those too. So I glued down that sentiment, and now it's had some time to dry. I'm flipping it over, and I'm just going to cut with my scissors a curve. Oh, I just love the little details sometimes. So I have some black little dots here, the little sticky back dots that I got from the Eyelet outlet at, I think, the Scrapbook Expo. Rule of threes is usually a good idea. However, I cannot figure out where to put these little things. But I knew the card was just a little bit too plain. It needed just a little something extra. Nothing major, because I didn't want it to compete with that background that I just spent God knows how long stamping. So I was kind of moving them around, and I decided that I would just put the little dot over the eye, and that could kind of serve as the dot over the eye, I guess. I don't know. It didn't bother my eye, and it kind of tied it all in with one of the dots touching the sentiment. So now what do I do? Oh, it's envelope time. Nope, it's sentiment time. These sentiments have been sitting on my desk, which means they're the ones that I'm pulling and using. I have not gotten up to go find another sentiment stamp set, so you get what you get and you don't throw a fit. I stared at this for a while too, trying to figure out what goes with the sentiment on the front. I believe the sentiment on the front says something like, oh, what does it say? Something about a shape. I don't know. Something that has to do with shapes. I forget. I'll have to look at the end. And I think on this one says, you can do anything you put your mind to. When I stamped it the first time, I didn't get a great impression on the top right. No worries. It's a clear stamp. I looked right through and was able to restamp it without using a stamping platform. It can be done with clear stamps. So now I'm looking at what size my envelope needs to be. When you are making a round circular card, you can make it smaller. You can make the envelope much smaller than you would for the square corresponding card. So I think the circle that I used was actually a 5-inch circle. But when you take off the edges, it just cuts down so much smaller. And I think it finished at like 4 3/4. So this 5-inch circle this 5-inch envelope was just too big. It was too big, but I wasn't going to make another one. And I kind of knew it as I was doing it, and I passed the point where I could return. So when I used my little sample sheet there, I was like, the front needs something. I was like, I don't know what, but it needs a little something. So I grabbed my sample sheet, I cut it down to something that was usable, and now I'm getting ready to start on making the envelope. I believe I needed to put this at 4 1/8, and you punch and score. Punch and drag the bone folder down in those little grooves there. Now I'm going to round the corners, and the little slot to the right is the one that rounds corners. The other one snips them in a different way. And now I'm going to fold over my envelope. Again, I'm glad I kept that little strip, because this is working on black cardstock, and I did not feel like busting out the heat embossing powder. So I'm glad that I had that little strip. If you have little white hairs because your trimmer is kind of dragging, it's not a fresh blade. Sometimes you'll get those little hairs. No worries, just take a nail file and file your paper down and they will go away. And then you'll have a sharp, crisp line. So glad I had this little strip. You guys just don't know because I had no idea what I was going to do on the front of this envelope. And that just gives it a little interest, just a little something, something. Nothing special. See how much larger that is? When you use the new envelope, it really gives you a lot of play anyway. So if your card is smaller, it's really going to show. So I rounded one corner on the liner and I cut this liner at 4 inches. Check my other video to see how I measured. And then I'm lining it up at 4 inches again. I just flipped it over and then I'm going to punch it. And that's to get rid of those corners so that your envelope can close properly. I might have cut this. This envelope was so much larger. I might have cut it at the wrong dimensions, but whatever. You get what you get and you do not throw a fit. This is so pretty. I could just stare at this forever. I didn't get good pictures of it. I'm like, come on, do better. I've got to do better. On my last video, I didn't show you guys exactly what I was talking about as far as the tape goes. So here, I'm going to show you. I'm drawing a line from that little notch to the other side. So that way you know where not to put tape below. Tape should only be on 1/2 of the envelope liner because the liner is going to naturally move a little bit when you open and close your card. And I like to put a lot of tape on that top part because when they open the envelope, you really want them to be able to see the liner and how it matches the card, which is so cool. I can't believe I wasn't doing this before. I am just so sad that I wasn't doing this before. It just seemed like the kind of thing that I would do. This is totally couture card making, in my opinion. It's going that extra little step. I think I ran out of tape runner right there. I'm sure I have some more in my drawer, but gotta find it. Okay, and so now I'm just lining it up, trying to leave about 1/4 of an inch border around my liner. Boy, that looks pretty, guys. I just can't stop staring at it. You know, I love a good ombre, rainbow, and black and white stripes. Like, what? This is my jam. And now that I know what colors make a really pretty rainbow from the Catherine Pooler collection, I am on, guys. So now I'm just putting a little tape runner on the outside tips of the card. And then I'm just going to close it up. And there we go. The card and the liner. Ooh wee, pretty, pretty. The top of that card just had some white and it was bothering me. So I grabbed a Copic and just lined it. And that cleaned it up. I could have gone all around the edges, but I just didn't think that was needed. And that probably would have had me mess up something. So there is my card. Guess what? Yep, I'm about to bust it out. The dip pen. I can't stop. I'm addicted from here on out. It's all about the dip pen. It just makes you feel so, I don't know, sophisticated or something using the dip pen. So I was looking at this and this set has the hot pink ink. Am I a pink girl? Absolutely not. Is that hot pink interesting? It sure is. So I'm looking at these addresses again. On Facebook, I asked people to send me their addresses if they ever wanted to receive a card or a gift from me after I've made this stuff. Because once I've made it and I've gotten it out of my spirit, I am not attached to my things. So I'll just send you whatever it is. So I was looking at the list to figure out who was next up to receive something. And I got their name. And here it is. Let's see who it is together. I like this pen because this pen sucks up. You can see the ink running up the pen. My other pen, you can't see the ink running up. I mean, it obviously holds ink, but this one you can see it sucking up the ink, which is kind of neat. Yep, it's Felicia. Felicia, love her. So supportive. She's been down like day dot. Always commenting on my videos, always following me, always shouting me out, always keeping me motivated. I appreciate Felicia. I'm cleaning this the same way that I clean the other one. This is a baby wipe, and this is water-soluble ink also. So I just hit it with a few sprays from my sprayer, my distress sprayer, and that ink just runs down. Boy, I love dip pens. I mean, boy, do I love them. So I close up the ink, and I'm looking at the other bottle of ink, and I'm thinking, I wonder what color that is. Yep, I turned it over and dropped the pen and the ink, and they are both glass. Thank God nothing broke, because I just would have died and ran to Amazon and ordered another one. Okay, so my cards are not finished unless I do a little seal. I'm using a piece of spaghetti, dried spaghetti, to light that candle. If you have nail polish, your nails are flammable. If you have long nails, don't risk it. I'm grabbing some magenta, purple, and lavender wax beads for the seal. I only used 3 beads this time, and this is the wax melts from AMZ Deco. A is in America, M is in Mac, Z is in Zebra, AMZ Deco, DECO. I like ordering from them. They're the ones who also did my custom logo, and they also have like pop culture kind of seals. Basically, I bet you can get Game of Thrones, and I know you can get Harry Potter. 2 seals, which I'm planning on buying. So I just go ahead and drop that seal there and wait for it to cool a bit. If you're doing back-to-back seals, you want to put your your seal on ice so that it stays cool, or you want to use Versamark ink, which is just a clear ink, so that it releases. You guys, thanks so much for hanging out with me again. I hope you enjoyed this card, and I will see you again soon.